The Olivia Bishop Files. Can you catch her? Prologue. Thomas Bishop's footsteps echoed sharply against the cold marble hallway, a rhythmic reminder of the ticking clock that haunted his every step. It was late, and the normally bustling corridors of the FBI headquarters in Washington, D.C. had fallen silent. Shadows stretched long across polished floors, broken only by the faint glow from offices of agents pulling all-nighters on critical cases. Tonight, Thomas wasn't here to work a case. Tonight, the case was him. His heart pounded unevenly in his chest as he approached the large oak door marked with the nameplate, Director John Pepper. The air felt thick, almost suffocating, as if the building itself had turned against him, pressing him onward toward a truth he had long avoided. The door swung open before he could knock, and Director Pepper stood in the threshold, his expression a careful mask of professionalism, though his eyes betrayed a deeper conflict. "Come in, Thomas," he said quietly, stepping aside. Thomas entered slowly, eyes quickly scanning the room. Two agents he didn't recognize stood at the back, arms crossed, watchful and waiting. He didn't have to ask why they were there. "Sit," Pepper directed, gesturing toward the solitary chair positioned squarely in the center of the room, isolated and exposed. Thomas hesitated, then lowered himself into the seat. He knew what came next, had known for weeks, but that didn't lessen the sting of betrayal. Pepper cleared his throat, moving behind his desk, but remaining standing. He couldn't quite meet Thomas's gaze. "You know why we're here, do I?" Thomas's voice was measured, steady, concealing the rage and fear beneath. "Because I was under the impression my record was spotless." "This isn't about your record," Pepper said, eyes finally meeting Thomas's, a hint of genuine regret flashing briefly. "It's about your family." Thomas's blood ran cold. He'd feared this day, the day when Eleanor's secrets would become his burden, when whispers from the past would grow too loud to silence. "My family? You've known my family for years, John." Pepper's jaw tightened. "Exactly. Which is why this conversation is even harder. Certain allegations have emerged. Things that can't simply be ignored. Connections between Eleanor and a string of unsolved murders. The Bureau can't risk the fallout." Thomas's fists clenched involuntarily. "You know as well as I do those allegations are false." Pepper's expression darkened, his voice dropping dangerously low. "Do I? Or do I know you've spent your entire career protecting someone who should have been brought to justice long ago?" Thomas stared back, defiant, but inside he was unraveling. He'd spent years shielding his family from scrutiny, hoping it would never come to this moment. Pepper sighed heavily, a bitter resignation settling in his eyes. "Thomas, we're not opening an official investigation, not yet. But I can't keep you here. Effective immediately, your time with the FBI is over. Quietly, no scandal. Just walk away. If you fight this, I can't promise what happens next." The room fell silent, a heavy, oppressive quiet that crushed Thomas's resolve. Slowly he rose, straightening his jacket, gathering the remains of his dignity. "This isn't justice, John," he said bitterly, the betrayal in his voice unmistakable, and deep down, you know it. Pepper didn't respond. The two agents stepped forward, escorting Thomas to the door. He paused briefly, glancing back at Pepper, his voice barely more than a whisper. "One day, this is all going to come crashing down around you, and when it does, you'll remember this moment and realize just how wrong you were." Without another word, Thomas turned and walked away, leaving behind the career he had dedicated his life to, stepping into an uncertain future, one shadowed by secrets he could no longer contain,